This is Natalie Pace, and today is day 4 of our 21 Days to Prosperity and Abundance free video coaching. Today, the mantra is forgiveness. Now, I already said this quote, but it definitely does bear repeating. As Carrie Fisher often said, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Holding on to resentment is really not healthy at all. Again, you can Google it and ask your doctor about all of that, but it is really unhealthy. Now, you might say, but I have somebody who really harmed me. And there may be circumstances where that happens, right? We could be standing in front of a lion and they eat us, right? That's not a good scenario and that's not a good outcome, but it can happen. Um, One of the most powerful shifts that I ever made in my life, it was going to therapy, and I think some of us do need it. I certainly did. And the therapist said, first thing, I did have traumas when I was a child. He said, look at 5-year-olds. It's not that 5-year-old's fault if an adult does something horrible to them. It's not the 5-year-old's fault at all. So you go and make it your job to look at 5-year-olds and just see how young they are, first of all, so that you can kind of heal that within yourself. Because when someone does something bad to you as a child, sometimes you think it's your fault. Because parents are real good at telling you that things are your fault, right? So then the next thing this therapist said was, but when you're a child, that people can do things that harm you, and you may not have any way of stopping that. But as an adult, you do. So if somebody is harming you now, especially on a consistent basis, I mean, certainly someone could rob you, someone could, hit you, right? But is there somebody who is harming you consistently? And that question then becomes, again, forgiveness doesn't mean accept abuse, right? And that's why I'm kind of diving down the rabbit hole a little bit more on this. If someone is harming you as an adult, it is your job not to let people harm you. If you are underappreciated at your job and you're not getting the raise and promotion you desire, I'm not saying you should quit your job, but maybe you should start looking for a company. And, sadly, the statistics are pretty strong in favor of this, that the company that woos you is going to pay you more and give you a promotion. And that might happen more frequently than where you are, right? So, but that's what I mean to say is that if you feel that someone is harming you, toxic in your life, all of this is it means that you need to be the adult in the room. You need to set boundaries and you need to figure a different way for yourself. You shouldn't just stay there. I always say that anger is a fantastic fuel if you allow it to be a fuel. If you let it turn into resentment, then it turns on you. It turns your body. It can produce all kinds of problems, including cancer. Stress factors can. So if you are angry at something, and that anger can be the fuel to make the change so that that doesn't happen anymore, then anger can be a very, very helpful tool, right? Just don't let anger turn into resentment. Now, let's talk about forgiveness. So, if you have fixed the issue so that whoever was toxic or harming you in ways that you didn't want to be harmed, then you have fewer reasons to forgive because you don't allow access to yourself in that way. First of all, of course, there still can be things that happen that you have no control over, but a lot of things in our adult life we actually do have control over. So part of this way of thinking about forgiveness differently is starting with the premise that we will have less to forgive if we have a greater sense of self-worth, of what people can and cannot do to us, that we're the boss, we're the adults in the room. So we'll have less things to forgive in that scenario. But we still might have some leftovers. And I certainly have been guilty of this too. I'm like, how can I forgive that person? They did this, they did that. I have all this whole list of all these things they did, right? And I could go through that list a lot and just spiral into it, right? But how do you get out of that? How do you get to that forgiveness space if you really are spiraling with all the things that they didn't do or did do that you really wanted it to be different? And the way to do that actually can have very little to do with the spiraling and more to do with mindfulness, right? So, all of the other things that we're talking about already and the things that we will talk about to come are going to be helpful, but I'm going to give you an extra tool. So, the first thing is, what would love do? Would love, and let's call self-love here, right? Because remember, I said, third time, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. So self-love in this scenario says don't spiral about all the things that this person did to you and all the reasons why you really don't like them. So that's a self-love thing. Breathing, right? What within me needs to grow. So this is no longer a problem. Do I need to set more boundaries? Does this person need to be a little bit further out from me, not have as much access to me? Um, and then, thinking about what we were talking about in yesterday's as well. So we want to be keeping these top of mind, but I'm going to give you one of the tricks that I use for forgiveness. And I don't remember who told me to do this. It wasn't something I thought of on my own. And this particular practice is this. Whoever it is that you really think harmed you, send them an anonymous gift, very modest. Like it could be they said $11 cash. What I did, I knew the person, right? And I knew what they like and I know what they didn't like. I knew they liked dark chocolate. So I bought $11 worth of dark chocolate. I sent it anonymously. They could probably figure out who it was just by where it was postmarked from. But I did that about once a month for about 6 months. And I found that I was thinking about all the things I hated and resented less. And it wasn't that it's somehow it's like you're releasing some of those things with those anonymous gifts. I don't know the science behind that or how it works, but something about giving a gift to the person who harmed you has some magic in it. Maybe it's got to do with, love. Maybe it's got to do with, what within me needs to grow. But that's what I would say is that with this daily mantra of today, which is forgiveness, first of all, let's make sure that we have enough self-love that we aren't allowing people to harm us. And secondly, if there's still resentment in our mouth, then we need to take some strategies, including maybe the free gift, to try to get rid of it. You can't, forgiveness is not something that you can say, I forgive you, right? It's a feeling. It has to come up from within. You don't always have to even tell the other person, I forgive you, right? Because that it's not even necessary. They aren't waiting for you to forgive them. Whatever it is that they've done to you, they may either that's who they are, or they don't think it should have hurt you, or whatever it is, right? They have a whole story that they've told themselves, which probably doesn't mean, oh, she better forgive me for this, right? It's a gift you give yourself is forgiveness. And the goal is not that you're able to speak it, but that you no longer have it dogging your heart, that you actually have those things that you're grateful for. And that, by the way, could also be a very helpful tool, right? We talked about gratitude yesterday. If you're counting up all the things that you resent, that's the opposite of gratitude. So maybe in addition to giving that gift, and you don't have to think of things you're grateful from that person. Honestly, once you get to the other side where you actually do feel forgiveness in your heart, you will find a couple of things that you are grateful, a couple of gifts that that person gave you. It might even be that you'll never fall for that trick again that that person did. It might be that. So you've got four different mantras that can help you with this, and one other tool that you could try to help you get over whatever resentment you're feeling. But remember that as we get rid of the resentment, focusing on the negative and lean into things that are opportunities rather than, all of the obstacles in our life, that's when we can start creating the life of our dreams. All right, I will see you tomorrow, day 5.